after about 3 years or so, I moved over to what they call a SATM team, which was back in the day, a long time ago, before they had precision guided weapons like cruise missiles and stuff like that. The precision guidance system was a man with a pair of boots on. So you would put a nuclear weapon in a backpack, and you'd walk that mother in wherever you wanted to put it. You'd set a timer on it and try to get out and hope that you got out before that thing went off. So they were called Special Atomic Demolitions Teams, and there were about, I think, 4 of them total in the Army. And
that dude didn't smoke, and he walked very softly.
Yeah.
Welcome to Oil and Whiskey, an Ironclad original. I am Josh Henning.
I'm Phil Gerber.
I'm Jeremy Gerber.
Welcome to Oil and Whiskey, an Ironclad original. Today's guests are the founders of Hooten Young. We'll also have another edition of In the Glove Box. Hooten Young is a veteran-owned cigar and whiskey company out of Orlando, Florida, founded by friends Norm Hooten and Tim Young. Norm Hooten is a retired Special Mission Unit Master Sergeant from the U.S. Army, co-founder of Hooten Young, and clinical pharmacist for the VA. Tim Young is a financial consultant and co-founder of Hooten Young. There's a lot of shit on this paper. I got to go to the second page.
That's a serious introduction.
Yeah, it's a serious introduction. Norm took part in Operation Gothic Serpent in Somalia, the operation that influenced the book and movie Black Hawk Down. After his retirement in 2002, he became the head of the Federal Air Marshal's Global Response Team and the King Abdullah Special Operations Training Center in Jordan. Hooten Young donates a portion of all proceeds to veteran aid charities. To learn more about Hooten Young, visit hootenyoung.com. You can also follow them on Instagram at hooten.young. Guys, welcome to Oil and Whiskey.
Welcome, guys.
We're excited to be here.
Guys. Good to see you.
Well, we're going to get into this whiskey. Should we start with the 12-year or the 16-year first?
I think the 12 year is always a great place to start.
12 years where we're going to start. While Jeremy's pouring that up, I do have an observation from that great intro. It doesn't seem like the government can ever run out of names to make acronyms for any type of special operations or missions or anything. They have to use 6, 7, 8 words to describe something.
Yep, it never changes. Never changes.
It's you with Josh. It's just one. It's an asshole.
Yeah, that's simple. Yeah, just call me asshole, and yeah, we're done. So, guys, what's been going on? What was a day in your lives like today?
Go ahead, Tim. Kick it off.
Well, interesting enough, my whole day is full of Hooten Young. Between our whiskey business and our cigar business, it's constantly there's something going on between marketing, operations, and stuff like that. Norm actually has the best job in the world. When we explain, Norm, you're dating today. Did you ride your tractor today?
No, not today. That was this weekend. I was actually working as a pharmacist today. So, good day, long day, but good day.
Well, Josh, you didn't mention that that Norm also has his doctorate in pharmacy.
Yeah, he did. He did.
He did?
Yeah.
Which was amazing. An old man who got it at, what was it, 51 years old when you got that?
I started it, I was 52. I finished it when I was 56. And it's one of those things, that be a little careful about the things you commit to in the future. But when I started it, I started it because of, I had, obviously coming from special operations, I realized that there are a lot of veterans, but specifically in my wheelhouse, special operations soldiers who had problems with opioids, prescription opioids specifically. So I thought at the time that I would learn about those things from the ground up. Went to pharmacy school and learned as much as I could about them, and served in the VA and neuropsych, which is substance use disorders and PTSD.
What was your thought process at that point to go back to school, that type of commitment, learning about it? What was your goal and how to try and change the epidemic or help in any way by being a pharmacist?
Yeah, it wasn't like I went back to school. I never really went to school the first time. I just
all right, that explains all that, because I didn't like school the first time. I would have definitely not gone back a second.
Yeah, if I had, it's kind of like those things that you do, you think you might like it. And then after you do it once, you realize that you don't. But I was in it and it was too late to back out of the deal. So, but I had several friends that were very, very special to me that I served with, throughout my adult life. And a couple of them ended up dying from opioid overdoses. And a couple more ended up tragically committing suicide. But all of them had some sort of opioid connection to the troubles they had in their life. And so I thought that I would go back and try to figure it out and help where I could. And, I don't know that I'm any closer to figuring it out now than I was when I started, but I had to do something. Doing nothing was really not an option for me.
That's awesome. You've definitely lived a life of service. Where did that come from? Tell us about the younger days on both of you guys and your upbringing and kind of what's brought you here. Were y'all born and raised in Texas, Florida? Where?
Both of us were born and raised in Texas. I come from a little town in southwest Texas, just south of Big Bend country. It's called Brackettville, Texas. Closest town to us would be Del Rio, Texas, which is right on the river. You see a lot about Del Rio in the news because of the immigration crisis, people coming across the border. But when I was there in Brackett, we had about 1,000 people in that town, and that was on a busy day. But ranch working family, hard working background, very, very blue collar. In fact, I think I'm the first person on my dad's side of the family to get out of high school. And most of them stopped their education when they were in middle school or early in high school and went to work on the ranches or in oil fields. And I played football, so I didn't have to do that. So when I would come home at the end of the day after football practice, I'd stay there as long as I could to avoid working on the ranch. My grandfather used to call me lazy. But
it's good, smart, man. It's good thinking.
Yeah. But I remember when I was getting out of high school and I was thinking about going off to college. I'd never known anybody that had gone to college, because people that went to college from where I grew up didn't come back to that little town. They went off to the big city of Houston or Dallas and, pursued a career. And I asked my grandfather, so you think I should, what do you think about this college thing? You think I should go to college? And he goes, the way I see it, people go to college to work for other people. And if you want to work for somebody, I got plenty of stuff for you to do right around here. And so not long afterwards, I found myself in the United States Army. But, my dad was very, very similar. He's a blue collar guy, hard, just worked all his life. But early on, when I was a kid, he was involved in some activities that landed him in and out of jail. So I spent most of my time around my grandfather growing up. My dad was kind of between sentences as a kid. He was in there anything from making whiskey, fighting dogs, fighting chickens, homicide, you name it. He managed to find himself in trouble a few times growing up. But thankfully, I had a great mom and a great supporting cast around me. And but yeah, that's pretty much it for me. And I'll turn it over to them.
What made, before we get there, I want to ask a question. I've got a good bit of family members that were in the armed forces, and it's probably, I've said it before, probably one of my biggest regrets is being too big of a pussy to do it, because I always wanted to do it, and I didn't think I was man enough to do it.
Yeah, you were right.
Probably wasn't man enough to do it, but it would have been nice to get to see.
Of course.
But I always ask this question to people I run across. I want to know at 17, 18 years old, what made you choose that specific branch? What made you choose Army over other things?
It's a good question. I had always, when I was a little kid, grew up in that small town, I was fortunate enough to be of that age where I kind of was a elementary school, middle school in the 60s. And when I would go down to the barbershop every weekend to get a haircut, I was surrounded by guys who had served in World War II, Korea, and currently serving in Vietnam. So, and I used to really look at those old Vietnam, especially the World War II vets, and think, man, these guys are really, really old. For a 6 or 7 year old kid, they were old. But I look back on it now that most of them were in their early 40s. So they weren't that far removed. Now that I look back on things that have happened to me in my life, they were just 10 years, 15 years or so out of World War II. So, but they were just awesome role models. A lot of them were in the Marine Corps, and a lot of them were in the Army. And I think that both of those kind of attract rural country boys, the guys that like to, kind of go out and hunt and fish and stuff like that. But the other thing that I think that was significant is that when they draft people, people get drafted to the Army and to the Marine Corps, right? So I was surrounded by people who had either volunteered to go and do it, but for the most part had probably been drafted. And so I didn't have a lot of exposure to the other services. And in the Air Force, at the time, there were privates in the Army older than the Air Force back when that thing first started. So so I was exposed primarily to the Marine Corps and the Army. When I got a little older, I had always considered going in the military, and it was really kind of a toss-up. In fact, I went down when I first started talking to my recruiter. I talked to a Marine recruiter, and then when I had a couple of friends that went in the Army, when I heard the things that they were getting, like jump school, going to the Ranger Battalion, stuff like that, I just felt like the Army was a better fit for me. But I got a lot of respect for the Corps and the other services.
Awesome. What about you, Tim?
Well, my dad was in the military for 34 years, and he was in World War II, Korean War, all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting. I wasn't born in Texas, but I was born in Aberdeen Proving Grounds up in Maryland. And then we moved down to Huntsville. My dad was with what is it called, NATO Missile Command. So he did a lot of the nuclear missile stuff, which we didn't know anything about that until later in life. But interesting enough is that, first of all, I'll tell you, I always tell people that he's the face and I'm the wallpaper, because he's got a great story. He's not even telling you everything, because he's got a deep history of what's going on. And my stuff is just boring. I mean, essentially, my dad eventually moved to Corpus Christi, Texas. I was in 4th grade, and I grew up in Texas, and I love Texas. My heart's always in Texas. And interesting enough is I ended up at Baylor. And I started off at Texas A&M, and I kind of got drunk too much. And I guess they asked me to leave a couple times. Then eventually I ended up at Baylor. And when I was at A&M, it was funny because it was probably 7 guys with each girl. And it was really kind of tough. I joined a fraternity and all that kind of stuff. And I was one of those guys, right? My parents didn't have anything. My dad was military. My mom was a school teacher. My sister's a school teacher. My brother's a school teacher. And they kept on asking me, said, why don't you become a teacher? I said, I don't want to be a teacher, and I don't want to join the military. I've been on every freaking post pretty much my life. And I said, I'll go to Baylor for the summer. I went to Baylor, and there were 7 girls for every guy. I didn't care what I majored in.
But
I think I know what you majored in.
Yeah. Now we get to the bottom of it.
But interesting enough, when I started meeting girls there, I was like, man, all they want is MRSs. You know what that is?
Yep.
They want to get married and have kids. And I'm like, hell, I don't want any of those. And so I met this young lady, or girl at the time. Her name is Stephanie, who I ended up marrying. I've been married to her 36 years. And we both graduated from Baylor. And then I ended up at PwC, or PricewaterhouseCoopers, in Boston. I didn't even know where Boston was. I applied to 2 firms, got in both of them. I don't know how I got in. My grades are shit, but I somehow got in. And essentially, I ended up getting into the accounting field, which I didn't want to do. Ultimately, what happens is I end up becoming CFO of multiple companies. I'm a finance guy, but I think now people will tell you I'm more of a sales guy, because we're basically doing well in our company now. But I lived in Hong Kong a couple times overseas, and essentially that's where it's driven us. Now, Norm, you have a story before when we start talking about how we met. What got you, and what's the next step of progression you did in the Army? You were in the regular Army for about 3 years, or what was it?
Yeah, well, first I want to back up a little bit, Tim. Tim is underestimates himself. He's really been dynamo behind what we've done, and he is an excellent businessman, but really just an awesome person. And his personality just lends itself to, on top of everything else he does good, it lends itself to business development. So I wouldn't call him sales. He goes out and finds ways to connect people to make business opportunities just materialized that would not normally have been there. Well, I think a lot of people go after them, and they see something and they go after it once they see it. But sometimes when you see it, it's already too late. Tim thinks of things ahead of time, goes out, makes them kind of materialize out of nothing, and gets it done. But yeah, so he can't underestimate the role he plays with the company. I know he likes to say he's the wallpaper, but wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Tim Young.
This is like a regular employee review kind of thing here. This is awesome. you got an A+ there,
Dude,
Tim.
if we get on a podcast,
I just know how he said every time we get on a podcast or something, he's like, I really don't play a big role, but he really does.
Like the slow play.
if we get on a podcast, are you guys going to talk about me that way?
No.
Will you be that complimentary about?
No.
Really?
No.
Huh.
Did you want me to lie?
No, I mean, I'm genuinely curious.
Because you're such a complimentary guy.
All right.
Oh, hey, Phil, you won't believe this. Josh said, you're the guy, you and your brother run the show. Last time I talked to Josh on the phone yesterday. And
I do tell the truth. I'm just not super nice, like to their face.
What's interesting enough is that I think you guys have a better story than we do. Yes, we're in the cigar and whiskey business and merch and all that kind of stuff. But you guys use your hands. You guys make things that I can't do. I can't get under an engine or do a chassis or whatever. I think that's phenomenal what you guys have created there. And, we're all supporters of you guys. Well, possible. I can't afford your cars. You're too expensive for me. But we definitely want to get a Hooten Young car or truck at one point.
Yeah, we started a whiskey business, so eventually we could afford to buy one of your cars. We're hoping maybe one of these days we could maybe catch out the business.
We got some plans for that. I think we got some stuff cooking.
Well, we started a hot rod shop so we could justify the car hobby and addiction, and then just call it a business. And then somehow it evolved over the years into eventually sustaining, making a little bit of money.
But I think I tell most companies.
One of the guys the other day, I've always had a love for the old muscle cars. The problem is that I just can't work on them, and that's a bad combination.
It's a great thing for us in our business. we need guys that are really into them that can't work on them.
Yeah, well, you found one.
So the next step. So before we get into the story of how you guys met, so tell us about the Army career. So you go in, you're doing the thing, and I mean, it's obviously you have to progress. You're not a.
Yeah, I really didn't know what direction I wanted to go in the Army. I just knew I was going in. I knew that I wanted to be in some sort of Special Forces unit or a Ranger unit. So I found my way into 5th Special Forces Group about a year after I got in the Army. So I was in the 5th Group based out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Did a couple years on a scuba team there, and then after about 3 years or so, I moved over to what they call a SATM team, which was back in the day, a long time ago, before they had precision guided weapons like cruise missiles and stuff like that. The precision guidance system was a man with a pair of boots on. So you would put a nuclear weapon in a backpack, and you'd walk that mother in wherever you wanted to put it. You'd set a timer on it and try to get out and hope that you got out before that thing went off. So they were called Special Atomic Demolitions Teams. And there were about, I think, 4 of them total in the Army. And
that dude didn't smoke, and he walked very softly.
yeah. So did that, and that was one of the coolest bunch of guys that I ever worked with. They were just the all-American. If you look up badass in the book, they were the guys, and that was back when you could be in the Army and go out and bar fight on the weekends, come back in on Monday and get the job done. And believe me, they did it. And it was an intimidating thing to be around them. Most of them had been to Vietnam. And they had just legendary stories that you would just hear casually in the team room every day. And I was just captivated by the people that I worked with there and the experiences that they had. They were just an awesome place to grow up as a young soldier. Having those people around you, they really set the standard for everybody else to follow from that point forward in my Army career. So several of them had been SOG in Vietnam. There were a couple of guys in the company that were, had been awarded the Medal of Honor in Vietnam. Almost everybody there was, either a Silver Star or better. They were just a super bunch of guys, and I learned the trade of being a soldier from those guys. I'm very blessed to have been able to do that.
Wow. And with all the experience that you've had, and you're talking about the stories that these guys had, what are some of the standouts? I'm sure it's, we could go on all night, but what pops in your mind that is just one of the most iconic stories that's hung with you?
Yeah, my first exposure to an officer in Special Forces was when I was going through the Q course, and the commandant of the Q course was short for the Special Forces qualification course, and the guy that was in charge of that was a guy named Major Bob Howard. His full name is Robert Lewis Howard. If you Google this guy, he's probably the most highly decorated soldier since World War II. I don't think he was a Medal of Honor winner, nominated for it 3 times, won it once, a couple of Distinguished Service Crosses. But some of the things he did were just, I could go on and on and on and spend hours on this podcast talking about him. But there were a couple funny stories that, and you can kind of judge the truth of stories when people, other people tell them, and they're not telling them themselves, right? Sounds a lot better. But his one of his teammates from Vietnam told me, he said they set in an ambush site one day, and they were supposed to capture some guys, and they had set up these mines, and they were going to blow these claymore mines on a vehicle convoy, and then go in and try to capture a survivor, if there were any, and bring him back for interrogation. And so the vehicles were rolling through the ambush site, and they hit the clacker on the claymore, and nothing happened. So Bad Bob Howard is what this nickname was from his buddies, picks up a claymore mine, gets it working, runs behind the vehicle as it's running down the road now, throws it in the back of the truck and lights it off while he's running along behind it. And then, of course, the rest, I could go on and on and on, but just crazy stories like that. Stories about guys going, hundreds of miles behind enemy lines in Cambodia or Laos, and waking up in the morning and being in the middle of an enemy patrol base that had moved in overnight with 1,000 people around them, and sitting there for a week until they left. Ooh. under a bush, hoping that they didn't get caught. And just the nerve-wracking stuff those guys went through. And I think it differs from the modern battlefield in that certainly there are heroes today, and there's a lot of stress, but there's a difference between going into the jungle with a team of 4 people and hunting someone who's hunting you than there is driving up with an overwhelming force with a bunch of vehicles or helicopters and a lot of support. But these guys were basically going out in hunter-killer teams in Vietnam, on their own with very, very little support. Whatever they had, they carried on their back, and they'd go off for these 30-day patrols and then come back. And it was just, to me, that would just be the most nerve-wracking kind of mission. But they were awesome guys, great guys to learn from.
That's nuts. You're not
hey,
man enough.
Norm,
No, I'm not.
I would like you to, can Norm tell you a story about how you got into Ranger School?
Yeah, that's a later on story. I was an old guy in the Army, and I got in there on a bet on a pistol match. I had a buddy of mine that had been in the Rangers, and we were down on the range one day, and we used to go back and forth because I was a Green Beret, he was a Ranger, and he said, "I'll tell you what." He goes, "If let's shoot for it." He goes, "If I win, you go to Ranger School, and if you win, I have to go to a Special Forces course." And of course, I went to Ranger School, so we know what the results of the shooting match. I was already a team leader in a special mission unit when I went, so I was the old guy of the group.
So Tim, at this point in time, he's punching tickets for bad guys. You're punching the keyboard, crunching numbers and stuff. How do your paths cross?
Well, first of all, here this old guy who, you were 29 when you were at Ranger School?
Yeah, 29 years old.
And he ended up being how many guys were in it? 300 something?
I can't really remember, something like that, a couple hundred people.
So here's the thing is, he's the old guy. He ended up being number 1 in his class.
Damn.
So that's the reason why you see the dagger on our H&Y logo. But that being said, What was the question again?
So tell us about the dagger. Tell us what's the significance of the dagger.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Norm.
So that dagger is the Fairburn Sykes dagger that was the dagger that was carried by special operations units in World War II. And it has been since become kind of the symbol of special operations globally. So if you look at like the emblem or the logos for commandos around the world, like this British Special Air Service, Special Forces, our Special Forces teams, a lot of the special mission units, they'll have that dagger in their logo. And but it was the dagger that was also carried by the very first Special Forces unit formed in the U.S., which was the First Special Forces Force, or the OSS. It started in Fort William Henry Harrison, Montana, and then went to war. It was a joint Canadian, American, British force that went. But so that dagger is really associated with Special Forces. The logo is an H and a Y, and we figured, well, we'll put the dagger in there because of our affiliation with Special Operations.
That's awesome.
So you asked the question, how did we meet?
Yes.
Interesting enough is that somebody had asked me, said, do you know Norm Hooten? I said, no, I don't know who Norm Hooten is. Have you seen Black Hawk Down? No, never saw the movie. And they said, oh, his son's at West Point. I said, well, good. I want to meet this guy. So they came over to the club here, and it was Bonnie, Norm's wife, and his son Noah, and my wife and I, and this other guy who was introducing us. And we're sitting there, and I looked at Norm, and I said, man, I kind of know this guy. I don't know how I know him, and you basically said the same thing, is that you get this little stare at each other, and you go like, I know this guy. And so then we started going through the story that how I grew up in Corpus Christi, he's from Brackenville, blah, 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 on. But our common was our two sons were at West Point together. And so we kind of go through the story, and then my wife cheers up and says, hey, Norm, have you ever been to this HEB camp at Lakey? He says, I've been there all the time, a lot of times. I used to go there too. It seemed like that's where we got dumped as kids. We would go to this camp near San Antonio. And then, of course, to find out Norm's sister went to Baylor, it was all these coincidentals. And then to find out Norm's mom's maiden name is Young. And my dad grew up in Orange, Texas, and Louisiana. And so we just felt like it was almost like this family friendship, whole thing instantaneously. And it was, even though we are so different in a lot of ways, we have a lot of commonalities. And our wives love each other. It's just crazy how it's just kind of formed. And
hey, I'm going to let you guys know. I'm going to butt in, Tim, just for full transparency. Tim Young invents his own words along the way, so you got to be able to interpret those as you move.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I migrate words.
Don't ask him to say Nicaragua or Catawata, because
Colorado.
Hey, they all came from somewhere. Somebody made them up to begin with.
Well,
so.
my takeaway was after Tim's story about why he went to Baylor was Norm's sister at Baylor the same time that he was there, because I would have
actually
that's where your head's going.
I would have changed that story up a little bit after
he's talking about being number one in Ranger school and stuff. You're going to start talking.
No, he's the one that needs to be worried, not me. I was just bringing it to attention.
Yeah. I never really thought about it.
Moving on.
Good answer, Tim. It's a good answer.
So so moving on is that Norm and I became really good friends, and we learned, we were together smoking and drinking together. Everybody said, "Where'd you start?" I said, "We drank Buffalo Trace or Blanton's, or we had these what was it, Monte Cristo White Series that we were smoking together." Yeah. And we just kind of hung out in the back of our porches and stuff, and either had a fire or something was going. It'd be 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And one day he says to me, "Hey Tim, I got this 30th or 25th anniversary for Gothic Serpent I got to speak at." And then Norm, you said,
"What?" I said, "Hey, we should make cigars for the guys, just as a gift for the event." So the 25th anniversary of Gothic Serpent was 2018, and we made 300 cigars, and a friend of ours from Cuba had made them for us, and then we drew the label up ourselves and had a local printer print it, and we actually applied the bands to the cigars ourselves. I think the night before we left to go up there, and then we drove up there and passed them out at the event, and then we started getting requests for boxes and orders coming in. And my answer was, we just did it as a one-time thing. It was a gift. We didn't really intend to get in the cigar business. But months later, we kept getting requests for it, so we decided we would get into the cigar business, and it would be a good way for us to give back a percentage of the returns on it to what was then the All Ranks Fund, or the Unit Scholarship Fund. But since then, we've helped other veterans charities raise money for their efforts. But it started with a gift of 300 cigars to the Special Forces Unit Fort Bragg.
Ironically enough, I said to my wife, I said, "Hey, we're going to invest this kind of money into it," and she said,
We are.
"You're going to smoke them."
Oh, we're gonna smoke some of them.
Some of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at that point, I mean, if I know we got a lot to go into, but stuff just keeps popping up. So, all right, you had a connection, you had a buddy, you got the first 300 done, you applied the stuff, so you got orders in. So the next step is you got to change up the way you're going about things. You need to get into the cigar business, even if you're just starting it out. So what's your next step? You Google how to make cigars. I mean, like, honestly, I want to know the detail of, like.
Good question, because I wasn't by history a cigar guy. I can trace my whiskey drinking days to back when I was 10 years old, and my grandmother used to make it in the barn. But I didn't know a lot about cigars. I just knew what I liked and what I didn't like. But we were fortunate enough to be located in Central Florida, and Central Florida is kind of the ground zero for the cigar industry in the U.S. So Tampa, Orlando, there's a big Cuban expatriate population all over Florida, but especially in Tampa. If you guys have ever been down there to Ybor City or something like that, it's just, there's one cigar maker after another. But we had had several friends that we actually enjoyed cigars with that said, "Hey, we know people and we can help you." So we started out down in Nicaragua, and a friend of ours had another cigar business on the side that he was running on his own. He said, I'll help you guys get up and going. So he handled all the operational stuff that was done down in Nicaragua, the selection of the tobacco, the boxes, all that stuff. We designed it in the States, and then we would have it made, produced down in Nicaragua, and then we would finish it off, like the packaging and stuff, when it got here. And so the short answer is we knew people that helped us along the way. Bobby Newman from J.C. Newman Cigars is located in Tampa. And I think that his company is the oldest standing American cigar company in existence today. Awesome brand, and really, really just a wonderful guy. He helped us and gave us a lot of great advice. So we had mentors and friends that helped us get started. If we had tried to start from ground zero and do it on our own, we would be nowhere near where we're at today. But we had some of the best minds in the business helping us get going.
So ironically enough, at this point, we started the cigar business, and I ended up moving from here. Let you know, my wife works for Disney, and so we ended up moving out to Anaheim. Norm calls me up. I was there for about a month or two, and he calls me and he says, "We should get in the whiskey business." I said, "What in the fuck do we know about whiskey except for drinking it?" And he said, "Well, I know you know somebody." Well, unfortunately, I know a few people. And so we had a good friend of ours. His name is George Miliotis. He's a master som. He's like top 10 out of 200 in the world. And I called him up, and he said, "Man, I love the idea. I'll try it." So interesting enough, I came back from Hong Kong. I met with George and Norm and so forth. And we decided that, we're going to get into the whiskey business. I don't know what whiskey we're going to get, so forth. So here's the whole LinkedIn plug. So here I was living now. We just moved from California to Hong Kong. And George calls me up and says, "Tim, I can't get a rep to call me back." I said, "Well, why? You're a master som. People will call you back." He says, "Dude, no one's calling me back." I said, "Well, which one is it?" So I go on LinkedIn. I find the president of MGP. I text him thinking that I got a slim chance this guy's going to return my text. The next day, he says, "Hey, we got to get on a conference call." I went, "Well, okay." So I get on a call with him on Wednesday of that week. I'm in Hong Kong. He's in Kansas. He said, bottom line, he says, "Your rep now is the guy in charge of the whole distillery." At that time was David Dostick, whatever it was. And he's the VP there. So we were basically one of his few accounts. We go up there, Norm and I'll let you know, I'm not a spitter. I swallow juice when I'm in there. And of course there's our master some, he's spitting everything out. I think the second row of drinks, Norm and I were really toasty, particularly I was, because I drank everything that was there. And so we decided that, versus a blend or whatever, and you're saying to yourself, how in the hell did you get in the whiskey business? It was really Norm's push. He said, why don't we get in the whiskey business? I said, okay. So he tells me, gives me the drive. I then go and pursue it and get it done. And it's interesting enough is that we really, where do you get it bottled at? Where do you get it in labels? Where do you get caps and capsules and blah, blah, all that kind of stuff? We had no clue. But then what happens is through the migration of our first sale, we sold our first bottle of whiskey, which is the 12-year-old in the middle of COVID. It was in May. And Norm and I go to this guy. His name is Babush, something like that. He's an Indian guy. He's a really super good guy. And he has a place called Bevfly. And we go over there, and we had this case of whiskey. Now, if you saw our labels, some of our labels back then were all done by hand. So some of them were crooked, some were backwards, some were upside down. Okay, back to that.
Yeah. Collector's
So
items.
we go in there, and Norm says to, let's just call him Bobby. Bobby, listen, if you don't sell it, we'll buy it back from you at retail. Well, within 2 weeks, how many cases did we sell to him in 2 weeks?
We sold 100 the first weekend because he said, I'll buy one case of whiskey, and I said, if you don't sell it by the end of the month, we'll come back and buy it back full retail price. Right. He called us the next morning and he said, I want to order 50 cases. I sold it. It was immediate last night, and then he sold it in that first weekend 100 cases, which I think was our quarterly allotment or quarterly projection from our distributor at the time, was that we were going to sell about 100 cases in the first quarter. We sold 100 cases the first weekend.
And that was the 12-year that we're drinking right now?
That's correct.
Go ahead.
What do you attribute that to, right? So you're a brand new company, and you're going into someplace and putting a bottle on the shelf. I take it that nobody knows what it is. You don't have a reputation. The name hasn't been out there. Is that solely the look?
They got to be doing tastings or something. There's got to be.
Where does it come from? Is it because it's a 12-year?
We know a lot of people who drink whiskey, and they were like,
Gotcha.
all over the world. They were saying, "Hey, I love it," and they knew a little bit about the whiskey that was going to be released. This is a special whiskey. There's it's comparatively rare compared to other whiskeys. It's not a bourbon. It's an American whiskey. It's a light whiskey, and it's the aging is what's rare. You can't fake that. It's 12-year bottle, but now that same whiskey, we've been sitting on barrels of it 16, 17 years old, some of it. So it's not easy to come by, but Tim knew a lot of people. I had a lot of friends from the Army that said, and we had access to online sales through Bevfly, and it was sold online. And so, the whiskey business, as Tim might have alluded to earlier, is exponentially more complicated than cigars because it's heavily regulated. There's a 3-tier system. So we as producers cannot sell it to anyone. If we do, we are classified as bootleggers. So we have to sell it to a wholesaler. Wholesaler sells it to a retailer. Retailer sells it to the public, and that is the legal system for whiskey. And like Tim mentioned, we were due to release in April or May of that year, and COVID hit, and our distributor said, we're not sending any of our sales force out. All distribution has come to a screeching halt until we figure out what's going on. And we just couldn't afford to sit on it. So we had the distribution system set up and in place, but we actually physically went out to Bobby and started selling whiskey. Nobody else was.
Well, I think this is absolutely amazing. I'm generally, anything that's that high of a corn, mash bill, whatever, I generally don't gravitate to.
But the 12-year you do.
The 12-year I do. The light whiskey, so obviously it's not bourbon, so it's not new oak barrels, right? Is that what tames down some of the corn because it's being in a previously used barrel? I'm not trying to get into the secret sauce. I'm just trying to learn because we're kind of stupid on some of this shit.
I think what happens is, one, that you avoid some of that heavy char that you would get with a 12-year bourbon.
Yeah.
But you still get the aging. So you get the flavor profiles from the wood, but the aging really smooths the whiskey out. I've tasted some of the 3-year light whiskey, and it's like gasoline.
Yeah, this really is really good. It's easy.
But that aging
smooth
really
and
changes.
very drinkable.
Well, actually, our 6-year. So you have the 12-year, and you have, what's the other bottle you have out there?
That's the special edition Jack Carr 16-year. I think that's going to be their next sip.
Yeah, I will tell you this is that stay with the 12 for a moment. Is that when we first went in, they said to us, "Hey, we found 2,000 barrels." Now, if you went to MGP and they have these building after building after building, and they found this 12-year of 2,000 barrels of it, and they said this, and then we fell in love with it. So we end up buying right now 1,000 barrels of that juice. Now, over time, it's called yielding. You know, you've heard Devil Share, you've heard of Angel Share, or Devil's Cut, or whatever.
Right.
And what happens is, if you saw some of our older barrels, they're really all black. I mean, essentially, they are drenched with it's a new name, drenched, whatever, the whiskey itself. And so what happens is that we said we're going to get those, and we've done well with it. And now we have 6-year-old, we have 8-year-old, and now we have the 12. We have an 8 coming out here in the next couple of months. We have a rye coming out. We're actually doing a 30th anniversary rye coming out, 6 years. Be out in October. But, you know, we continue to grow. And, you know, you'd ask, how did this happen? I mean, I'm not a marketing guy. You know, we know a lot of people, right? But, I mean, how do you get people, when you can get people to buy 1 bottle, well, how do you get them to buy 2, 3, 4 bottles, right? And so what happens is they'll buy on the name, but will they buy the juice? And so we decide that we're not going to put our name on a bottle that's not good juice. And bottom line, we would rather, you know, try to pay more and make less margin. But it just happened to where things kind of gross. And I tell people, and people cringe with it. I said, listen, I smoke, I drink, I cuss, but I believe that God has a plan, and that we don't know how it all happened. We don't know how it just morphosized. And then now we're in 34 states.
Morphosize is another good one. I like that. I'm writing these down.
It's the morphification process.
Yeah,
told you guys we're going to learn a whole new language.
There's something to be said for that about delivering, you know, quality juice, quality product, because like once a month I'll just buy a wild card bottle, right? I'm a pretty big bourbon whiskey enthusiast. I've got hundreds and hundreds of bottles, but every once in a while I'll just buy something exclusively on the label, right? This is cool. I've never seen it before. Let's give it a shot. 95% of the time, it's horrible, right? So I'm not accustomed.
It's a one and done.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's great to get that initial sale, which you nail that with the logo, the marketing, the bottle shape, and all that. But delivering a quality product, that's what.
Oh, it's interesting
brings
too,
them back.
because timing wise, like you said, things just happen. Timing wise, from the outside looking in, it could not have happened at a better time, because the bourbon, for the most part, the bourbon world, the whiskey world, whiskey enthusiasts, that big marketing hype of the big time players or whatever, that stuff has gotten old to guys that have been in it for a while, and they're searching it. They're not believing that shit anymore, and they're actively searching out where it's not just about price, it's not just about name, it doesn't have to come from these places. There's so many craft guys out there, if you find them, that's doing the right shit. So you coming on, not only with a great name, not only knowing a few people, but having a quality product where people are like, holy shit, this is actually really, really good. You're not making excuses for it. It's not like because
it's not a marketing gimmick.
Yeah, exactly. Because you've got all these special niche groups or whatever. So you're gonna appeal to the operator community. You're gonna appeal to the special forces. You're gonna appeal to the military. You know, and those guys are gonna get it. We've seen that happen so many different times. And the guys, they buy it because they want to support their community. But then when they're drinking it or whatever, sometimes they're like, man, I'm glad it going to a good cause, but this is not exactly what I'm going to be drinking all the time, you know? So when you do that, you get those guys, and then you actually deliver them something that they would like to drink. That's how it happens. That's because it's the fucking product at the end of the day.
But, you know, everybody says, you must be a military brand. Listen, we sell half of our product to non-military people because people believe in what we do. I mean, first of all, I'll let you know, we have no employees. We have 1 employee, maybe 2 employees now. After being in business, now we're going to be 5 years in the cigar business by August. and we've now had 2 employees. Norm and I don't take any money off the company at all. We put back into the product, and then we just opened our first warehouse for our cigars just recently. And I'm cheap. I mean, my wife won't tell you I'm not cheap, but when it comes to everything, I don't like spending money. And essentially, but we do the best we can. The bottles, the labels, and so forth have to be quality.
Phenomenal. Norm, what do you drink? You're drinking out of the white bottle. What's the white bottle?
So that's our 15-year, 125 proof. One of my favorites. I got to go with a little ice usually in that though. The 92 proof is perfect sipping whiskey. That 125 proof.
It's a little spicy.
So can we get into the 16-year now? Is it time? I want to try some of the higher proof.
I got to get through this.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this. I'm taking it a little slow, Josh.
It's really good.
It's very good.
One question I got for you guys: how do you plan to grow and scale the business when you're kind of, I don't want to say landlocked, but there's only so much 15-year, 12-year, 8-year bourbon available. How do you plan to grow the business when your supply is limited?
I'm going to let Tim Young elaborate on that. I'm going to defer to you, Tim, on that one.
Well, I'll tell you this. First of all, I have this. I'm an Excel spreadsheet kind of guy, right? I have everything laid out. What's it yielding on a barrel, so forth, going through.
You and Phil get along great. There's Excel Yoda over here.
Oh, who is?
Phil is.
I do make it do a lot of things it shouldn't.
Exactly. So what happens? Well, of course, this is how people believe in us. It's funny is that our CFO of our company now, who doesn't get paid, gave us an investment into our company. He's a partner in an accounting firm here in town, a very large one. When you get people who invest in you that want to work for you for free, that already tells you one thing. Number 2 is that when I start looking at longevity of our brand, right now we're buying stuff from 6-year, 8-year, let them age up. We're using some of the 6, but I got plenty. We have plenty of it. But our longevity is not only building the brand itself, but making sure we have enough juice. Now, there's other guys out there we won't mention who went out and just sold an 8-year, and then all at once they ran out, and so now they come out with a doesn't have a year on it. We learn from their mistakes. We look at what everybody else has done and said, why did they fail? Why have they been doing it for 10 years and they've done less in revenue than we have? Well, because we put our money back into the company. I would say we live to work versus work to live. And so what happens is we take every opportunity. We take some risk in buying barrels and stuff. But at the end of the day, we know those barrels are worth a lot of money if nothing happened. But, it's interesting is that people say, well, how much juice do you have? I said, I got enough to last at least 5 to 7 years right now. And they go like, you got to be kidding. People are calling us to buy our barrels. And I said, no, they're not for sale because they can't get it. The other thing is we have a wonderful, wonderful relationship with MGP. I just talked to them twice today. We're always on calls with them, and we're always talking about other juice that we might be potentially want to buy. It's this point about also loyalty. We have a loyalty of our suppliers. And I guess you guys would have the same thing in your business. You have people supply you stuff, and you stay with them thick and thin and make sure it works. With that, I try to find different costs. Now, I would say there's one interesting guy that we use. It's called Paul. His name is Paul Lux. He is from the Luxco family, and he does all our bottling in Cincinnati. And I talked to him twice today, usually, and we talk about how much juice we have and how much bottling, what we need to do here and there, whatever. What happens? You find these bonds that they not only become just our vendor, they become our friends, they become family. And my wife says, Tim, stop saying family because it sounds kind of mafia-like, right? Now, well,
it's the truth. It's
whatever you want to call it, you call it.
Making liquor and selling cigars, talking about family. It doesn't sound mobsterish at all to me.
It is family. We have the same mentality. I mean, with all of our customers, with all of our vendors, it is about the relationships. And I know that's probably cliche and it's been used too many times, but it honestly is about the relationships. That's how everything is done, and that's how everybody stays successful. We stay successful. Our customers stay successful. Our vendors stay successful is because of that relationship. And you're saying the same exact thing.
Well, it's interesting enough. We during the COVID, which is 2019, wasn't it? 2020.
Great idea to launch a new business, by the way, too. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Everybody
It was the
was
first time to do it. Yeah.
everyone was staying home
And
drinking.
The drinking part, the whiskey part was a great idea. Well, I guess the cigars, too.
Well, here's interesting enough is that we got a call from somebody about wanting 4 bottles of our stuff, and they wanted to put it in a movie. And we're like going, yeah, okay, great. So I said, I know how that works. I've been in that business a little bit. We signed this little waiver thing, and there was a working title. And I said, fine, we'll send you 4 bottles. Of course, they called me back and they said, hey, you're supposed to send empty bottles. I said, well, you need to specify I don't have empty bottles. I want to have full bottles.
Pour them out.
Drink them.
So we ended up sending it, and they actually poured it out and so forth. So if you saw the show Terminal List with Chris Pratt, first, we didn't even know it was that movie. We really didn't know. It could happen, it might not happen. And that happened right in the middle of COVID, where we were still selling. I think we sold in the first year during COVID 954 cases. And so we kind of forgot about it, thinking that, we just sent a guy for bottles and hopefully they loved it. Then, of course, Terminal List came out last year, and we got a call probably a couple of weeks before the show came out, and they said, hey, you need to watch the first episode. We were like going, yeah, right. So a few of the guys said, dude, you need to start watching this. I hadn't started watching it because I wasn't that interested, but because I didn't really know anything about it, and started watching. I'm going, holy shit. Chris is on there saying, have a Hooten Young on me.
Yep. And
then his email address has Hooten Young on it. So it starts off Hooten Young at some Protron, whatever it is. We didn't know anything about that. It didn't cost a dime. We didn't charge them. We just come with the flow, right? So you remember how we just don't know how things happen. They just happen, right? Of course, we had a bump in it. And of course, then we became a big supporter. We love Jack Carr and so forth, in which you now have a ball on your tables because of that show and how much he supports Hooten Young. And so we don't know how it happens. And it just, I'll tell you, you go to an event and you meet 20 people, and 2 of those people want to either invest or want to be part of you or try to sell your stuff or whatever. And it's just weird how that happens. And I'll tell you this, we believe in our company is all about integrity. And so we have nothing to hide. We tell everybody, listen, if you want to see our financials, they're all open. We don't have anything to hide, right? And so it kind of works great that way. We don't have any big stories to tell or not tell you the truth because it is what it is, right? So we kind of migrated through that. Now, Jack's did another book, and they're doing another show with Terminal List and part 2, whatever. And hopefully we make it in that. Now we have the Jack Carr bottle. And Jack reached out to us about doing it, and you should open that up.
Did Jack pick this out? Did he pick this
well,
out?
he was determined that he wanted our older stuff. Now, that bottle right there in your hand retails about $160. Within 2 weeks, we sold 6,000 bottles.
Wow.
Damn,
Nice.
We have another 6 coming out in the next couple of weeks.
That was quite the forethought to have that many bottles for that price point, that old, that high proof or whatever. But like you said, you got to do what you got to do, and you've got the faith in the brand. You've got the faith in Jack Carr specifically. It is crazy how those things, you just don't, the things that you believe and plan and be like, this is going to be an absolute home run. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But the ones that you don't even plan on, that just
generally when you like wholeheartedly believe in it and apply yourself like 100%, it becomes successful. If you truly believe it,
the business itself,
you'll make it happen.
Well, honestly, hey, Jared, I mean, it's a point where we did this as a hobby. We did this for Norm and I have a little bit of fun, something to do, hang out together, smoke and drink. Today is we're large. We're actually in the top 20% of this market in our whiskey, which people have been in the business for 10, 20 years, have never reached $2 million in revenue.
That's phenomenal.
And so I don't know how we did it, but we did it. Now, going back to this, you had Joe Rogan on your show. Was it last week?
Yep.
And one thing about Joe, I don't know if you saw that podcast with Jack Carr.
I did.
We did a special bottle, which the box we sell is called the Operator. That'll be coming out in July. And of course, the box that was made for Jack and for Joe that would probably be a $10,000 box because it was specially made for them. I don't even have one, or Norm. So they were very lucky, and we weren't involved with that makeup. But of course, they also drank the Jack Carr bottle, and it was great to see Joe look at the bottle and take a long time looking at it. And I was so glad he was on your show. He's a really funny guy, and I'm glad we were able to be on the show.
Well, this has been, first of all, this is really good. Great fucking flavor. Not at all what I was expecting proof wise. It's got some heat to it, but it doesn't
what is
have
the proof on that?
125, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, it's smooth.
If you
for
put a little
125.
drop of water in there or a little small cube, it changes the whole profile. And it's really good stuff, dude.
This has been all about feel good. This is all about success. This is all about powering through. Everything about this. There had to be times where you're looking at each other being like, what the fuck did we do? I mean, there has to be those times when you're doing that. I mean, from supply chain issues to getting bottlers to do the thing. If it is, correct me if I'm wrong, but there had to be those times that were hurdles to overcome. Obviously, you've overcome them, but
I mean, it hasn't just been all feel good on our end. We've faced those times. I thought it's all been.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, on our end, yeah, we've never had a hurdle to overcome, or even a discussion to solve a problem. But yeah, I mean, that's I think the more important thing is the perseverance and then being able to overcome those. And it's interesting to know, one, from this business, we have a lot of automotive guys on there, and you can kind of relate. You can talk about, oh yeah, well, you can't get these, and during COVID we were doing this or stuff like that. But from this side of the business, or your side of the business, an industry that we're not super familiar with, I'd like to know, going through that time, if there was any potential hurdles or problems or something that you absolutely, again, you guys were new to this business, so you're learning along as you go along. There had to be that thing of like, nobody told us about this. What are we going to do?
If you start off wearing a nuclear weapon on your backpack and walking it into it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he wasn't scared about it. Yeah,
everything's easier after that, right?
Yeah, no, I actually was scared. I think it's important to note that when Tim and I got started, I knew. I mean, I had Tim had certainly been a lot more involved in business stuff than I had, but I'd been close enough to it to realize that people that are best friends go into business with each other and end up killing each other by the time it's over with, and they won't talk to each other. And so I told Tim early on, and we agreed that, hey, look, no matter what happens, sink or swim, we're going to come through this. We're going to be friends in the end.
Well, Tim knew who he's dealing with, so like he's not going to win that battle, right?
Yeah, no.
If it comes to fisticuffs or weapons come out, dude, you're winning that one.
I have lost friends in business dealings before. So and I look back on it and I go, it was never really worth it to begin with. I would much rather have the friend than they have the animosity. So we made that agreement early on, and we stuck with it now. But there's been times where I wanted to absolutely choke Tim Young, and I'm sure he could say the same thing about me. In fact, we've had a couple of those stare downs where it was like, hey, let's take your shit off. Let's go behind the building and sort this out.
Well, I think last time you said that 2 minutes, I said, let me go get my AR and we'll take care of it from there. I'm not going to battle with him without something in my hand.
There ain't no such thing as a fair fight. You always got to take the advantage.
Oh yeah.
Weaponize early.
Yes.
Exactly.
Put something in your hands. But no, and Tim's dealt with more of the frustrations in the business side of it, but I'm going to let him elaborate on it. But I think our biggest problem is staying ahead of the capital curve, because you're buying whiskey in advance. You're paying all the expenses up front, and you may not see a return on it for a while.
Yeah.
So being able to manage cash flows and stuff like that is always a challenge. And I think that's with any business, but particularly with something like whiskey. And I'll let Tim talk a little more about that.
Norm, you hit it right on the head. Is that we grew last year 141% over year from 2020. What it was last year? 22 from 21. This year we're about 150% over last year. And so you're right. It's capital intensive. You have to buy the juice. You got to make sure longevity that you have it there. So our biggest issue has been on investment or line of credit. How do you get a company with a brand new company's been since a whiskey for 3 years? How do you get a $3 or $4 million line of credit? So we've established that. Hopefully we'll close our deal on next week. But I would tell you that's been the biggest hurdle. Then here's the fun thing. Ironic enough is So we were talking to our company, RNDC. So we actually use a national distribution channel with Republic National. We have Breakthrough out in California and so forth. Great distributors. So one thing is about distributors are they sandbag everything. They'll tell you, hey, we only need 500 cases or 100 cases. Every year, we're triple of what they say, right? And so how do I plan that? Is doing the operation side. And one is glass. Last year, there was no glass. I had the foresight. I don't know why I thought of this because I was living in China. I guess I heard this about glass. There was not enough glass, but for some reason, I bought 2 containers worth of glass, and it cost us $60,000. Well, $60,000 is a lot of money to put in just in glass. So then what happened was we had those in inventory, and then we have another couple of containers worth. And everybody said, I'm trying to get ahead of the story before it happens. We might have paid a little bit more, too much on the glass, but what happens, we have it. I have it in house to do it. But Norma's right on point is that it takes capital. And that's our biggest hurdle. So that every quarter, I'm always looking for, okay, where am I going to get my net half $500,000? Is it come out of our pockets, or is it I got to go find somebody with it? And luckily, so far, we've made every tranche that we need to make on since I'm buying the barrels. It's scary, and Norm's heard my frustration, but for some reason, it always appears. It always works. And so you kind of have to believe in your product, which we do. We believe in ourselves because we know we can do it, and other people believe in us also. So it's other than that, we just don't have that big of an issue.
What's the next stepping stone, or to help alleviate that challenge, the capital challenge? Is it better distribution? How many states are you in now? Is it more states, more mainstream? I know you're obviously the growth is there. You're talking about being up, 150%. The growth is there, but identifying those next steps, is it distributorship? Is it overcoming, the stigma from the big bourbon? What is it?
So our biggest thing is marketing. So our next step is, in regards to the financial need, is building our marketing team. We've always bootstrapped this thing all the way through, meaning that Norma and I would go to events. We would go to Warner Robins in Georgia, and there would be a line of people for us to sign bottles. To be honest with you, it's so weird to sign stuff because I've only signed checks. So it was interesting to sign. We went to one event with my older son, and I'm signing bottles, and somebody asked him to sign something. He says, "Dad, someone asked me to sign a bottle." I said, "Would you
sign that?
Sign it. That'd be the rare one. I got the son. Yeah.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean anything. He's worthless anyway. No, he's great. I love my boys. But that being said, is that you just got to believe in your product, and you got to just move ahead.
How many states are you in now, Tim?
We're in 34 states. We sell in 34 states, like I say. If Courtney was here, we have a lady. Her name is Courtney, and I would tell you this: thank God that we found Courtney. She's our marketing head. There was a story where we really don't have titles at our company. We just don't. We're in together as a team. We're a group. We're whatever. Everybody has their line of responsibility. Some of those lines kind of migrate to other people's lines, and then I had to come in and say, "Hey, stay in your lane." And so it is. But without Courtney, I don't think we would have gotten this far. But she's been handling all our designs and all that kind of stuff.
That was the next question: is who's behind all of this? Because the branding is amazing.
It's top notch.
It just looks awesome.
Yeah. So it's funny is because my wife has a huge marketing department, and I told my wife, "You cannot hire Courtney. If that happens, you'd be sleeping in another room.
Better benefits, higher salary."
Yeah, she's got the eye.
But but one thing is that she has been a team player. She knows that we've been struggling in regards to getting more capital in, and she knows that we're very upfront with her and everything. So it's and she's 29 years old and she just had a baby. So we include Sophia as one of our children of our family in Hooten Young, and we just enjoy having them around. We also just hired another lady named Allison Trainer who handles our cigar division, and she lives in Austin, Texas, and she's doing super. I'm sure there's other folks. We have a couple of the people that work in the warehouse now. But honestly, we don't have many people, and but we need to grow that department. We need to grow market. We need boots on the ground, and that's what we're working on. And hopefully within another year from now, we're going to talk, and hopefully we're double the size we are now, or triple.
Awesome. I think the trajectory you got it seems to be pretty nailed on the marketing side. It's Jack Carr, Joe Rogan, Oil and Whiskey podcast.
I think you did the.
Yeah, we're
you
right
did
at-
it.
right,
You did
yeah.
it wrong. I think you did the.
They just peaked. They absolutely peaked, right?
Yeah,
And we're on the-
yeah. Yeah, that's. I was just
Well,
trying to
hey,
wonder what do we need to do to get an oil and whiskey logo and we need to pick a whiskey out. Jack Carr got to pick a whiskey out. We need to pick a whiskey
I think
out.
we got to have
Well, hey, Josh, I told
more
you
decorated
yesterday,
career.
I said that I already talked to Paul Lux. We're going to come up with a few different things for you guys, so you guys can pick yours. And it might be a blend. It could be a different one. We're just going to do a blind test about 5 or 6 different bottles, tasting bottles, and we're going to sit down with you up there and say, hey, what do you like? You don't like any of these? We'll find 5 more.
This is breaking news right here on the podcast for all the
hiding this
listeners
stuff.
that an oil and whiskey Hooten Young special edition collaboration is coming
At some
at
point.
some
soon.
point. Yeah. Or we don't.
Yeah.
Right now we don't know when this is going to air, so it could be at any point in time.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think
we're excited about it.
Oh, we are too. Realistically, like our experience, our level of bourbon consumption and enjoyment, we're probably the core demographic, right? Like we're not wildly sophisticated, over the top.
We don't know tasting notes.
bourbon drinkers, but we're very good
Right.
at knowing what's just good, what you like,
Yeah.
what generally people like, right?
We have. This is great. You should buy it.
Don't fucking
This-
touch it.
Don't buy it. It's bad. Or it's all right. That's basically that. We don't have, notes of cinnamon and, Santa Claus's toes, stuff like that. We don't have any of that type of descriptive nature and the,
But we know what's good.
sommelier's tongue. We just have, like you said at the beginning, I drink what I like and I smoke what I like.
Yep. And
No,
I promise you this. This is the rule we live by. There's nothing that would embarrass me more than to sit down with a bottle of my whiskey with friends, open it up, and go, "Hey guys, have some whiskey," and look at me and go, "This shit sucks." So whatever we do is going to be awesome because we want you guys to have that same experience. And if we won't drink it, we don't put it in a bottle. And but we're excited about it, and it's going to be fun to collaborate with you guys.
I think.
So,
it'll
hey,
be-
Jerry, you said you had a lot of whiskey bottles, correct?
Yeah, I've got quite the collection.
Well, I must have about 400 different whiskeys upstairs.
yeah, I'm about right there with
It-
you.
So what's interesting is that I had the CFO for Disney at the house the other day, and he just got promoted to be the CFO for the whole company. And I said, "Hey, let's go get my 15-year-old Pappy out."
Sure.
He looks at me, he says, "I don't want it." I said, "What do you mean you don't want it? That's one of my most expensive bottles I got here." He goes, "Tim, I just want a Hooten Young." And I said,
Hell
"Holy
yeah.
crap. You could have this guy's making a ton of money, but he wants ours." And so it's interesting when when people start coming over here and they go, I say, "Hey, what do you guys want? You can have anything you want here." And they go, "Nah, I want the Hooten Young stuff." And I'm just telling you, this is how it works. And I'm like, okay. So I can't even get rid of my bottles because no one wants to drink that stuff. They just want to drink Hooten Young, and I keep running out. I moved to a warehouse, had to move it back. And I would tell you, because I keep running out. And so hopefully when we make something for you guys or blend something together and do the marketing stuff on it, it's going to look really good. And Courtney's already working on something already with the guys from IRONCLAD. And I got to tell you one thing about IRONCLAD. They have been a super, super plus for us. I guess they work with you guys on the podcast stuff.
Yeah, oh, there.
And-
We couldn't. We sit down and do this. Everything else that happens is
They make us
ironclad.
look good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that Jeremy over there, he's an all right dude.
he's okay.
Yeah, he does
He's
it.
got a few ideas. I will say, I know you probably have already tried this. We've talked earlier. You guys know that I'm from Alabama, so I do some redneck shit. A little bit of 16-year and a splash of 12-year together.
You already over here mixing stuff
Oh
up.
man, that
Cocktailing.
is something that is really, really damn good. They both are great, but that little bit of 12-year taming that 16-year without watering it down. I'm not a big ice cube or adding water to it. I know that guys do that. I just can't.
No, I don't do it either, but
Yeah,
It's-
but the funny thing is, man, hate to rain on your parade, but if you put that 92 proof in that 125, you just added water to it.
Well, I know that, but I feel like I'm adding whiskey.
no,
I know that. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing.
What part of
mixture.
Alabama are you
It's
from?
it's brown water in a fancier bottle. So,
What part of Alabama are you from?
Birmingham.
My daughter's going to the University of Alabama right now.
My daughter's going there as well. She's just finished her freshman year.
Okay, my daughter's just finished her sophomore year, so she's a year ahead of her.
Yeah, she finished up a good year, dean's list both semesters, and still managed to party every night. So
Yeah, I'm with you. Man.
or partied every night and still managed to. I don't know which one was easier to.
You were on a different dean's list, weren't you?
I was I was on the
shorter
come
list.
to the dean's office. I'm not telling you that you're kicked out, but I'm strongly requesting that you don't return back to this Bible college next year.
Oh, jeez.
Well,
Yeah.
Hey,
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. I got to tell you, I'm so stoked to come out with something that is like the ultimate drinker, because just like you said, you know, Josh, you come over all the time. We hang out, we drink whiskey, and I find myself, I've got, you know, just like you, probably 400 bottles of whiskey sitting on the shelf. And every time you go to pour one, you sit there and you look through them all, and you're like, you look up in the cabinets at the rare stuff, you look down at the stuff you generally drink, and it's always like you grab like a Weller Special Reserve, right?
Yeah, or something that's
$45 bottle of bourbon because it's great. And
That's
I want to
because he's over and you don't want to give him the good stuff.
that too.
probably
But you want that go-to bottle, right? That you know you can replace it
right.
when you kill it, when you get some buddies over. And just like you said, it's not insulting when they say it sucks, this is horrible. They usually don't say that, they just don't drink it, you know?
That's the most embarrassing.
Yeah,
part.
when
Yeah.
at the end of the when you pour
You
like,
don't want that. It's bad.
right.
So
What's your favorite other than Hooten and Young? What's your favorite right now?
Oh, man.
What have we been going through?
I
You're
think
drinking Weller the other day, weren't you?
We were drinking Weller the other day. We've gone through pretty much everything. Weller.
one of the new ones that's a standout is that Kentucky Par. That was kind of
That's
a funky little
it's
one.
a
but
12-year.
I think generally, unanimously, I think we all like the Old Forester birthday bourbon, which is
Old Forester 1920. Man, that's
1920?
my.
You're talking about the birthday?
yeah.
Yeah, the birthdays.
I can't even get one.
Oh, really? The birthdays. Have you had a birthday before?
Dude, I'm making birthdays and cokes over here. Like, I mean,
You're not. You're not. We'll have to when you come up. We're gonna have to spend some time. We're gonna get to do a get together. We'll have some birthday. But we did the other day we did a smoke wagon that
Yeah,
was
the
pretty
smoke
good.
wagon stuff was
The uncut,
fantastic.
the younger was actually pretty good. The 12-year stuff is generally what we always gravitate to. A more weeded 12-year seems like every single time it's a unanimous favorite. A weeded mash bill with a 12-year. There's a Calumet that's a
8-year blended.
8-year and a 15-year blend. That's for the price point. That's a phenomenal bottle. It's really good. I mean, I
What'd you
guess
sell
that.
it for?
I think that's what a 69 something dollars, 69 bottles, 59 to 69 bucks. I mean, you take
So-
an 8-year and a 15-year and blend it together. It's kind of like the 12 is where we
If you do the math.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so Phil and Jer, is that one thing we do is when we look at stuff, we look at price points. What do we want to sell it for? What is our demographics of who you're selling it to? And so we've had an issue in regards to selling bottles at 70 up to 160 bucks. I wouldn't say it's been an issue. It's been more so we don't hit a core group of 35 to 45. And most of us guys are older. I'm actually one of the youngest ones. And Norm's a lot older than I am. And I try to point that out because I'm better looking. And
They're just
so
like
we
us.
Better shape too. You're more fit. I can tell.
well, Phil, you're the finance guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you understand we'll go through and find out all the demographics and find out what's going to take, how much cost is going to be in that bottle, what's our margin going to be on that bottle, all that kind of stuff. I do just like this Excel spreadsheet, which you'll see, and you'll go through it and you go like, this is exactly what we're looking for. And the thing is, where are we going to reach out to? So what we'd like to do, and one thing we didn't do with Jack Carr's bottle, since it was so high priced, is that we put it to our speakeasy group out of DC and California. And because they were selling so fast, is that the states can't even get it, right? And we only did a limited number of 30,000 bottles. With you guys, we'd probably like to do a blend, a whiskey that is perpetual, meaning that as long as we have it, we do it and get it done. And so it's going to be a fun deal. Another thing that Jack did, we're coming out with a Jack Carr cigar as well. And we already did the design on it. We have a cigar being made already for it. With you guys, same thing. And we've been making.
We definitely need to learn more about the cigar stuff because we smoked a decent amount of cigars, but every time we do it, it's in a fun hangout, we're having fun type of environment. And I like some, and then there's sometimes I don't like them, but I can never remember the ones that I like when it's time to purchase a cigar.
Yeah, I mean,
except I remember those. Those were
yeah.
great.
All you remember back in the day is drying those suckers out, and
well, that's a different type of cigar. All right, different.
Well, we're fortunate to have a great consultant, Matt Saxton, great customer of ours, buddy.
He's a
avid
big whiskey and cigar
smoker.
aficionado.
Yeah. So he's
well, when we get together, I'll bring about 10 different samples, packages, and we'll come up and we'll smoke a few of those.
Where does the Paladin series fit in your line as far as like, I don't even know how is it like robust or dark light or strong or what? Where does that land?
Medium.
Okay.
Medium. Yeah,
Well,
it's a mild to medium, and it was designed for a broader. I'm a mild to medium guy. I don't like the really robust cigars that give you a headache. But it's a great cigar, mild to medium profile on it.
But the Paladin, that's what we call it, the Paladin. And the interesting thing is that we try to narrow our brand is in the military naming, right? So what happens is on the Paladin, that's probably it is our cheapest cigar. They sell it retail for $8 because when we met with Bobby Newman about a year or two ago, Norm, that he said, you guys need to come out with a cheaper cigar because the soldier can't afford it. And we said, Norm said, man, he's
Great
so
point.
right. We need to kind of get where a soldier can buy a Hooten Young and not feel like he just broke them. And so that was actually started with Norm and Bobby Newman. And we came out with it. And that's our lowest margin deal. It's $8, but it's still a hand rolled cigar. And it's a really good cigar. People smoke it. And actually at one of the local stores here, Coronas, that's their number one seller right now. And I said, well, maybe we missed our mark. Maybe we should be doing lesser price, maybe lesser margin cigars. And so we're kind of doing a variety of that. We live and learn. People have been doing this business for hundreds of years. I mean, these guys know cigars, but people tend to like our cigars. Have you guys seen the Madus?
I've seen it. I haven't smoked one. That's a cool looking cigar and it's a great fucking name. Awesome.
Yeah,
good name.
For example, on that one, so my son was flying. I mean, Norm could tell you on his side, but it became a little entwined so my son was flying Blackhawks, and so behind him he has 250 cows, and then Norm brought his mother of all guns. Well, it was kind of like this come together, and then I think Norm came up with another friend of ours named Mark Taylor, who's part of the company, and his son came up with doing this ammo box. It's made out of wood, and it is phenomenal. So another thing that we did at our company, a little different than majority of the companies out there, we have just shy of 50 trademarks and 2 design patents. And that's the business side of me versus, I'm just trying to sell cigars. So know that our worth is driven by how many barrels we have and how many trademarks. People look at both of those. And so we're really big into that deal as well.
Yeah, on the business side, how important is that and how quickly should you do that and when should you do it? Because you guys have got obviously a variety of bottles, variety of cigars. You got a lot of products. When is the time to be like, I'm patenting that, this is getting trademarked, or is it just a blanket policy across the board?
Well, we trademark it. When Norm comes up with a name, I trademark it. And sometimes we haven't used them yet. We're putting them on hold. But the thing is that if you don't trademark those names quick, somebody else is going to get it. So we do it immediately. And we have a guy down in name is Mike Dixon from Greenberg that does all that stuff for us. And
Have you
We
had
just
to,
get on.
have you had to enforce any of that stuff?
No, because I send Norm to him.
The ultimate enforcement.
Yep.
I could send a lawyer.
yeah.
But
Or you can just
I don't
stop
need
doing it.
I don't
When we
send.
go back to that Paladin cigar, it was really, you know, I was a non-com in the Army, and so I know what it's like to be a private making $383 a month. You know, back when I was in the Army, and it just broke my heart to hear from my sons, because you know Tim's son's in the Army. I got two sons in the Army, and to hear from them, hey man, you know, it's awesome stuff, but none of our guys can buy this stuff because it's just this is way beyond what a non-com can afford. And so when we went to the drawing board with the Paladin, we said we don't want to cut any quality on the cigar. We want to cut cost on it, even if we shave margins down to our bare minimum to fund the project. And that's what we did. So we really the Paladin is a lost leader for us. It really just gives us the ability to provide a hand-rolled, handmade cigar, a high-quality cigar to the people that are really most important to us. And so that's kind of the origin and the genesis of the Paladin series.
It's pretty cool. Do you guys do any? I don't even know how you'd be able to track it if you're going through that many wholesaler retailer, but kind of use that to get people in the door to then step them up to the higher end products. Is there
Like a gateway?
gateway drug, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you know, a young soldier, a young person that maybe doesn't have the ability to go out and drop a couple $100 on a box of cigars can go in and start out with that cigar. And man, that cigar, I have guys that come in and have a lot of money that will go right to that cigar. That's their favorite cigar. So it's not a cheap cigar. It's a high quality cigar at a lower cost, but there are people that can afford to buy any cigar they want to buy and will walk in and pick that Paladin up every time. But I think that people, you know, that will start out with that, as they progress, they get older in life, to make more money or whatever, they can afford to buy something else. But some of them just always come back to the Paladin.
That's cool. Are there military discounts or anything like that you can kind of lean?
We have to go through J.C. Newman to market on post. So he controls the pricing on post. He has an exclusive arrangement with all of the AFIS Armed Forces Exchange systems to provide cigars for them. So he buys from us and sells to them.
But we sell online right now, and we do discounts and so forth, depending upon who asks for them. But you remember our first mission in this whole thing is that it's about giving back, and we give back to military organizations. We give either bottles, product, or money. Generally, it's been more product than money, and sometimes it's more money. But we just don't. It's interesting because we try to look at the consumer, that they are our family. What would we sell to them, and how much we could? I mean, your cars are sold at a certain price. You got a certain margin. You have to build it in. You know that you have to go from there. And because if you don't have those lights on, and you don't have the building, you're paying rent or paying whatever on the building. And so what happens is we have to look at those as well. And so, but so far, we've done a good job of making sure our pricing is correct. Another thing is, I'd like listen, we're not here to compete with our fellow whiskey makers. We're just doing our thing. Somebody asked me, they said, how did you start in regards to why the 12 years? Let's talk about that for a moment. Is that if you go to a liquor store, what do you see? You see a ton of bourbons. You see a ton of tequila, ton of gin, whatever. You will not find, you'll rarely ever find a 12-year-old American whiskey on that shelf.
It's very difficult now to find anything with an age statement.
Yep.
I think that's what Calumet is a standout right now when you walk into virtually any liquor store.
Because there's an age statement on everything.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, they're at least telling you.
Yeah. To your point, the whiskey is generally not aged, right? Bourbon is, but whiskey is generally kind of a just blanket statement.
The bourbon now I think it's like 4 years. If you can get that, you might get something a little higher. It's going to be higher priced, but you try to find where do you fit? Where's your lane in liquor store? And our biggest probably hurdle is on premise bars. A lot of bars won't carry our stuff because it's too high priced. we don't have brand ambassadors to their stores that are trying to push it and stuff. We're okay with that right now because guess what? We're selling everything.
Nobody gives a shit if the bar doesn't carry it. The guys that are buying, that's searching out the shit, that want good stuff. It doesn't matter if it's in a fucking bar or not.
Exactly.
Most of the shit we ever look for is never in a bar. You're surprised if there's something halfway decent that's in a bar.
Yeah, Maker's Mark and Coke. And
yeah. I mean, there's a few, exceptions to the rule. Sure. There's a great bar down in Louisville. There's some great ones in Chicago that do carry a wide selection of rare, hard to find, and better bourbons. But as a general standout, and I think that's, I'm not telling you how to do business. I think that's fine. You don't want to. I mean, Maker's Mark's on every single fucking bar because it's fucking cheap and it tastes like shit. So
you don't want to be sitting on the bar at Applebee's, right? It kind of dilutes the brand.
No, you shouldn't be able to get this at TGI Fridays. As much as I'd like it because I go to TGI Fridays quite often.
Yeah,
right.
You get the Jack Daniel's steak. Right?
Well, it's funny. Like the second year we were doing this business on the whiskey side, we got a call from a very large grocery chain here in Florida, and they call us up. They got a hold of Republic. They called me up and they said, "Hey, they want BOGOs, which is a get one for free."
Yeah.
Or they want you to buy a slotting fee. We pay no slotting fees on any of our bottles. And I've been to liquor stores and I say, "Hey, why is our bottle on the bottom shelf?" And they go, "Well, you don't pay a slotting fee." I said, "What does it sell?" And they go, "Yeah." I said, "Well, then keep it there. I'm not paying the damn slotting fee."
Right.
And it, that's in some way you have to say it's like your product. Your product is good, it's great, but why would you pay another person more money and to have it shown somewhere? And my deal is that we don't have to do that.
Just put out the best product and everything else will fall into place.
Which I got to tell you, while I'm talking to you, I keep on thinking about that Chevy truck that's on your website. And I'm like going, man, that'd be a great Hooten Young truck.
Dude,
Which one?
We've got the Legends truck, right? The square body.
Yep.
Yeah. We've got some plans. All right. We can't tell everything on the podcast, right? There's got to be surprises left for the public, but we've got plans for a Hooten Young edition. Yeah, that's all we'll say.
Sure.
We're gonna leave it there.
Well,
but if Jeremy's gonna say more,
I got a little more. I mean, you guys. We would love to connect with you guys on that because coming out with something that truck. I mean, that truck is American, right? And to be able to do something that has some aspect of charity to it, to give back to the veterans, the armed forces. I mean, that's something that I think I could speak for both of you guys. We're
100%
passionate. I mean, Josh kneels for the national anthem. He's one of those dudes. But Phil,
first of all,
Phil's pretty patriotic.
Stop.
Yeah, that's a rough one to bring in.
Everybody that's listened, this is the time. If anybody that's listening right now, this is the fucking time we go at it because. We have a lot of fans and listener emails asking when we're gonna fight. Say I kneel at the national anthem again, and it will happen tonight.
Those are fighting words.
That's shit that we don't fucking play with. All right, there's a lot of things we can play with. That right there doesn't happen.
Hey, Josh.
Yes.
If you need some help, we'll be up there in a minute.
All right, come on, let's go. You can say I listened to Florida Georgia Line. That one I'll get mad about, but I'll laugh about. But that
I retract the statement.
all right,
dude.
retract the statement. All right, we're all good.
But I'm
Go
on the
back to your
right
statement.
track, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you're on the right
We
track.
would love to do something like that, to theme a truck, to connect with you guys, to do something. And
I think it'd be an awesome opportunity, and like you said, the chance to give back.
Of course.
I mean, we're doing stuff every single day because there's badasses like him and many more badasses doing what they do to protect us and keep us fucking free, to build
100%.
fucking muscle cars and classic trucks and stuff like that. So again, I live with guilt. I'm 44 years old. I live with the guilt that I was too big of a pussy to go do it. So anything that we could ever give the opportunity to do,
I'm right there with you.
yeah, I think it would be absolutely phenomenal. And the marketing opportunity and the cool ideas and the stuff, the branding, that's the stuff that we geek out about. Forget about all that stuff. Put you behind the wheel, both of you, and let you drive one. I think you'd be blown away.
Oh, I have no doubt I'd be blown away. Tim might be a little scared, but
It's a lot of power, man.
Well, I know we've ran a little long. We've got just a couple of questions that we ask every single guest. First up, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received? Whoever wants to go first.
Tim, go first.
No, I'm trying to think what's the best advice. I will tell you this. Best advice is don't get over your head. we just don't try to get overhead and financially wise and so forth. And so, when I have seen mistakes with people having, financial issues, marriages and so forth. And I got to tell you, and it's always to be honest. It's the integrity side, even with your spouse and so forth. And so if my wife would tell you, she would go like, we've never, and we will never, I don't lie to her. I might not tell her everything, but I mean, she'll find out eventually. But, the thing is always try to be as cheap as possible, save your money and don't get over your head on anything. And that's probably the best advice I've ever gotten was, man, credit kills.
Be frugal, huh?
Be frugal. That must have been Phil. He's the finance guy.
No, I was actually quiet on that one. I agree with it. But that was Jeremy. I fight these two on a daily basis.
That's the worst advice I've ever heard.
Yeah, I spend it like it grows on fucking trees.
You make more, right?
It's only money.
What about you, Norm?
Best advice I ever got was early on in my life. Be very, very careful about the friends you choose, but once you choose them, you stick with them to the end. And that's served me very well in my life. I don't warm up to people very easily, but once I make the decision to become a friend, I'm a friend for life, and I'm in it to the death. So, and it's served me very well.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Goes back to relationships, right? So,
Absolutely.
This is one that we bring in and out. We haven't done it in quite some time because honestly, I was starting to get a little disappointed at what our guest Everyday Carry was. So we used to do this a lot. So, but I've got faith. I could be proven wrong. I've got faith that both of you guys are carrying something good. So we used to do a pocket dump, right? We haven't done it in probably 15 episodes. Both of you got to do a pocket dump of what is in your pockets right now. And I mean everything. If you're hip carrying, if you're appendix carrying, I want to know what's in your pockets. I want to know what's in your waistband. Both of you. And now Tim's looking there because he don't have a thing in his pocket. He's at home and he doesn't have a single thing in his pocket.
He's
I got my
wearing mesh
dogs
shorts.
here.
All right. 38 or 357?
38.
All right.
No, I don't have anything in my pocket. I don't carry anything.
That's a F-150
Car
key.
keys.
That's a Ford key?
Yeah, it's a Ford
solo
Ranger.
key.
And then I use this. Usually, that's my dad just say hide the muzzle blast in their ear. If that doesn't work, then you go for the long gun. So
What's that back there? Is that Daniel Defense?
that's a Daniel Defense Victor Southern Pro.
Man, you're good.
Dude, I had
Hey, Norm, do you have that dagger back there, that gold dagger thing that was made?
Tell about the stock.
I do not. It's somewhere around here, but I have a custom Bob Horrigan or John Horrigan knife, and very, very special knife for us. But cool. But that's it, man. That's what I'm.
Oh, you got it.
Tim
You got
just
a
breaks out
tomahawk.
a hatchet.
Right?
Yeah, that's from Winkler. Is that right?
Oh, that's
Same thing.
that's the
That's
best. Him and half face
Tim,
blades. That's the best
Top
one.
part
But
is the dangerous and top. Tim.
the Winkler was the OG, right? That was the very first tomahawk that be carried by any kind of SOCOM or special ops, right? Special forces.
I have no idea. This is what I guess they used in the movie, right? There's two.
Yeah, I think Winkler was the first time.
I think he was the first one.
Dude, I'm over here like with my shop keys, right?
All right.
I
Are
got
you
sh-
ready? So
I got
we're doing.
shop keys, and then I've got a katana.
Oh,
sword.
shit.
Like I just happen to have a katana
This
on me.
worked out perfect.
Yeah,
Huh?
just sitting right there. You know, it's nice little carry. This has been under the bench seat of the legend truck that I daily drive every day.
Because you never know.
Well, fuck with me and find out. That is an absolute fuck around and find out scenario, right? Dude gets out of the truck with a fucking katana.
You're gonna
sword.
end up being on TikTok of the dude that gets into a fucking road rage incident with a katana.
Oh, and
sword.
just behead somebody?
You know I picked that out. Let me see it.
Yeah, my son got me this for a birthday present, and he keeps asking me. He's like, "When are you going to bring it out on the podcast?" So he told me, he hinted at it. Yeah, he's
Hold your hand up. I don't.
he's,
think that-
he's 12 years old, and he loves the podcast, which really he shouldn't be watching it. But he tells me he got me something, and it's old. I said, "Well, how old?" Really old, thousands of years old.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Thousand.
So
Hey,
we
you know, one thing,
He may
hey,
have
one thing, guys.
exaggerated.
One thing Norm did not tell you. So, have you ever heard of the Gracie family?
of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Norm is like best buddies. He trained with them.
With Hoist.
Damn.
Long time ago. I trained with his dad actually, Helio.
Oh wow!
Back in how old I am.
You're
But, yeah, I started
telling
out-
your age now.
Yeah, I started out at the Gracie Academy in Torrance, California. Great guys, awesome. So,
Oh, my son listens, and he shouldn't be as well as like his. So if he hears that, he's going to freak out because he's an aspiring MMA athlete. He wants to be a UFC fighter. So at 16 years old, he thinks he can whoop the world. And I'm sure that you've. Yeah, I know. Believe me, I've told him that, but I'm sure that you know those hardheads at 16 years old that think they know everything.
I've got a couple of them.
Yeah, you can
And
tell
when
them.
they're 30 years old, they're still hard head.
Hey, you couldn't tell me anything at 16 either.
Still can't.
Hey, but you know, that's what makes them men. I mean, they're going to go off and they're going to figure it out. They're going to choose their way, and it's going to be their way. So I like it.
Yep. Last but not least, now we're going to change this one up. Usually we do favorite car movie, and you can go favorite car movie if you want. However, if you want to change it up and do favorite military movie, I would like to hear that as well. We will accept that. Favorite military or favorite car movie, and why?
Well, I'll do the car movie, and this is probably one that everybody picks, but Steve McQueen, Bullet, man.
Mm-hmm.
Bullet actually, I think, is either number 2 or number 3 running right now after 90-something episodes. It's American Graffiti, and
Ford versus Ferrari.
Ford versus Ferrari is number 2, and
Oh,
then
that's a great one.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Honestly, I gotta say,
Two-Lane Blacktop is like
little
4th.
disappointed you didn't pick Rambo First Blood. I thought.
Oh,
that
you
was
thought he was going
coming.
to go Rambo?
I thought that Rambo First Blood was coming.
I don't think that right. Now it's a great movie.
Oh, it's a great fucking movie.
Yeah,
It may not be as accurate once you've lived it.
yeah,
yeah, I suppose.
yeah.
It's probably like me watching like Gone in 60
All right.
Seconds.
Well, now
Right.
before we go to Tim, I want to ask you, from your background and your in-depth knowledge, I want to know what the worst military movie is. Absolute
man,
bar
the
none.
worst.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris, Delta Force. Worst movie.
That he didn't even hesitate. He definitely hates Delta Force. Was it because of Chuck, or was it because of just the movie in
It's
general?
the motorcycle with the rocket launcher on the handlebar.
Again, no hesitation.
No, dude. Fuck, Stallone didn't have a rocket launcher on the motor, so he just had an old 2-stroke. That was it. There was nothing on it.
Do you count the number of rounds while they're firing in the movie? Like he didn't reload.
Oh
That's
yeah,
not-
no, I gave up on doing that a long time ago. I was like, man, dude ran out of magazines in like first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
It's just-
That's the same. That's the same thing with me when I watched Bullet. Right, that dude. It was like a semi truck. You know, it had like 16 gears, all just shifting.
I will say,
Constantly.
for a modern movie, now the
Good movie, though. It is a
the
good movie.
action, and I just watched it the other day. Extraction 2, right? Extraction 1 was great.
Sure.
Extraction 2, so wildly blown out of proportion as far as the fight scenes, and obviously it's a movie and stuff. But as far as the technical and the guns and the warfare and stuff like that, they got it really, really damn good. I mean, round counts, sounds, I mean, from the suppressed weapon sounds to the sight, everything that they're doing, I didn't catch. I'm sure you can, but I didn't catch anything that was wildly Hollywood fuck up obvious. It was like they're really, whoever was the consultant on that did a damn good job.
I got a couple of buddies that consulted on that movie, and the train scene, I guess, on Extraction 2, I haven't seen it yet, where they're getting off the helicopters on top of the train.
Yeah.
We actually did that. That was stuff that we did in the Army. But yeah, it was pretty cool to see.
It was a great movie for a reason, because you had buddies that consulted on it. I mean, it was really fucking good.
I keep eyeballing it. I'm waiting for the time to watch it.
Yeah. It's a great
Hey, well, I
movie.
don't
this
watch the
week.
time, but I'll tell you this: I just watched John Wick 4.
Yeah.
Dude, that is blood and guts. That guy never runs out of bullets.
That was
super accurate.
and how many steps can you fall down and keep walking? That step scene was about 12 minutes too long on a 13-minute episode. I mean,
Well, how many times did he get hit by a car?
oh yeah,
He still get up.
I'm glad to see it kind of come to an end, but I mean, 1 through 3 was way better. 1 and 2 was
I
way
hadn't
better.
seen it. I do like Keanu Reeves as an actor. I mean,
Stop.
It
as
was
a character.
Bill and Ted's Excellent
That's it.
Adventure is kind of
Actor.
his wheelhouse.
He's not an actor.
He's not.
Eh, he's a character.
Okay.
Plays the same role in every movie.
Yeah.
But you know, you guys are missing out on something. Jack Carr's Terminal List is one of the best movies out there.
Oh, I love
If you
it.
hadn't
100%.
Love it.
My biggest problem, and I know, I mean, Jack's not going to listen, so it doesn't matter. This is my problem. And he's addressed this with all of his fans and stuff. I read every single book, cover to cover, way before the first episode aired on thing. And being a fan and reading the book and in detail and the storyline, I 100% understand why they went the way they went for a TV show. But they're two different things. There's the book, and then there's the series, you know, or the movie. If I would have read the book after, I'd have been okay. Reading the book before,
I'm thrilled that
there was just so many.
I got to watch it. Right.
Oh,
Because I'm not a reader.
I understand.
For me, it was great. I loved it.
But
I'm looking forward to second season.
Jack Carr had the best analogy, and it made sense because and I haven't done this until after. So Rambo, First Blood, like you talked about, right? The writer of that, I can't forget, but it was a book first. Rambo was a book
Yeah,
before it was.
nobody cares about
I
that.
know, but listen, they wrote the book, then they had to make the movie. Obviously, you can't make the movie like you. The book was way better. Jack Carr acknowledges that, so he was fine with the way that the show had to be a show, that it wasn't the way the book was. And there's just things that you can't do. But me, I've told myself, or I've pictured that movie in my head by reading the book, and then seeing it on screen, it was different than what I pictured in my head. So it was a little off-putting because I mean, I don't know if you were readers, if any of you have read anything and you've read something and then they make a movie about it, the picture you've seen in your head is different than what you see on screen, and it takes you a little bit to kind of get used to it.
Well, you're talking to a guy who's an accountant.
Oh, okay.
Funny.
Reads a lot.
Well, my stuff is boring. Yeah. So Norm's the activity guy. He knows. He watched. Okay. Well, let's be frank. Since we're past the time now.
Yeah.
So I called Norm. I said, "What are you doing? Is friend the computer?" Yeah. I said, "You watching Fox News?" Yep. I said, "I don't even have Fox. I have no TV. I have 11 TVs here, and I don't watch any of them because we're just so busy doing our stuff. But then my wife will put on that HGTV crap on, and I'll tell you this: that is the only show that we watch here at the house. So we're pretty boring." And then she becomes a designer. And I went, "When the hell did you become a designer?" "Well, I've been watching this show." I said, "Does that qualify you to be a designer?" She goes, "Well, it's better than I was before." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore." So yeah, but guys, this has been a wonderful time. I want to know more about you guys. I don't know how I'm going to, sit down. I guess we're going to sit down together and just talk.
Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to
Talk about
we're going to start our
making some
podcast
whiskey.
with Unclad, and we're going to have you guys down on the farm.
We would love
Have you
to.
fly down.
We would be on.
Can we shoot some guns down there?
Man, you can shoot all you want. I got a couple thousand acres and nothing to do but shoot.
Let's do it.
So-
Let's not even wait for the podcast. Let's
Yeah.
just come down there next
Fuck the
weekend and
podcast.
shoot.
Samples.
And my father-in-law is like really into old cars and old equipment, old tractors, old stuff like that. So you guys would.
We'll drive
You
some
guys-
stuff down, man.
Yeah, we'll bring some cars down.
drink some whiskey.
Drive,
Well,
shoot.
unfortunately, he likes old stuff because he's old. So
Yeah,
Him and Josh should get along great.
still a stud though.
This
Well, wait a minute.
has been amazing, guys.
real quick, would you call your cars, because it's an old body, but everything else under it is all brand new?
Sure.
So what do you call that?
The
Hard to put a title
the
on
most generic and widely accepted term would be a resto mod.
it. Yeah.
Resto mod. Okay.
That's the easiest way to
Right.
to explain
This
it.
is like asking somebody who their favorite kid is. But what's your favorite?
That's easy. I mean, that's an easy one. I got 2 kids. That's an easy one to answer.
No.
The one that got you a katana sword.
Yeah, the one that got the katana.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, on car wise, there's
Favorite car?
I don't know if I could pick a favorite car.
Favorite
Yeah,
car is
it's hard.
tough. Favorite car is tough. We did a car that will forever stick with me. The Rampage. It's called the Rampage Camaro. Just a nasty, nasty car. Really, like the car. Just the way the car made you feel. Like driving it, experiencing it. It did everything well. That's probably lingers
I
in the
get
number
the-
1 spot for me.
I'm going to tell you this is aging myself, but I was writing it down. I said, because I was waiting for you to ask me what was your first car, and I had a 1978 Pontiac Astor. Lived in Corpus Christi. It had plastic seats, no aircon, and I'm gonna tell you this, but I put about 20 speakers in it, and back then, and my parents would say, "Oh, you must really love this car." I said, "I hate it because I can't. It's stick shift, right?" I've been trying to find that car forever.
Pontiac,
What-
that's like a
Heard of
Nova.
that.
That's like a Nova, isn't it? A
Tim
Pontiac?
strikes me as a pacer guy, kind of.
What year was that when you put those 20 speakers in it? Was that
It was-
93, 92?
No. I graduated from high school in 1980, so it was about 1978 Pontiac Astor.
1978. So that was,
I think my parents.
and
paid
you were in
$38 for it.
Texas?
You were seven.
Yes.
So you put 20 speakers in it. You weren't
Oh yeah, it was all in the back.
you weren't listening to country. Was that
Oh, yeah.
was that beat? You weren't listening to country with
That's-
20 speakers in it.
1980 is a
I
strange
love
year.
freaking country music, man.
So
Love
in,
country.
in 78, that was what?
The
Conway-
Journey, Foreigner.
That's not
Those-
country music.
Well, I
You
also
said
listen to
Journey
those,
and
right?
Foreigner.
Well, I listen to those too. You sell
Well,
those
but
speakers,
I'm
you
trying
know?
to think. If you said country, I'm trying to think country in 78, and that would be what? Conway Twitty?
Yeah. I mean, George Jones is still
Yeah, George Jones.
getting after.
George Jones wasn't. He didn't have any hits in the late 70s though. It was like early and then late.
Yeah, he was a little drunk.
What were you? So you were listening to Journey and Foreigner. You said you listened to country music, but you said Journey and Foreigner, and I bet you there was some Bee Gees in there.
Nope.
No
I
Bee
didn't
Gees.
like
Shut down.
no Bee Gees.
So
So
what-
you know you can sing word for word. How deep is my love?
Was that Air Supply?
No, that was you know who that was. It's the Bee Gees.
he said, "You know, you guys are. This has been
No,
an
but-
absolute fucking blast, really."
You know, we have a guy. You haven't probably met him yet. His name is Chris Lane, and he has a couple hits out and so forth. And you know, we've been meeting a lot of the country guys that are in the whiskey and so forth, and we've been talking to them as well about doing something collaborating together. Sorry. And my dogs bark at everything that moves.
That's what they're. That's the point. That's what they're doing, earning their keep.
Well, no, the thing is, I don't need a doorbell and I don't need an alarm system. They wouldn't. But I would say it has been a phenomenal time. You know, the thing is that life is short. Enjoy it, and we'll just keep on trucking along like we're having a great time. And we'll definitely can't wait to do something with you guys. And I know that Norm and I have talked about this several times, and our group has too. And anything you guys need, we're here for you.
We
And,
appreciate it. Likewise.
Yeah, I know that I like to spend some time with Phil because he sounds like he's the smart one of the group.
He is.
He is. Y'all, you can listen to the Bee Gees and,
We-
and
we-
do Excel sheets, and the rest of us will go
we'll
shoot
drink
guns.
whiskey and
I don't know about the
shoot
Bee
guns.
Gees, but yeah.
We will openly
Yeah,
admit that. You know, we won't argue that with you.
And I like that setup you guys have there too. Did you
Well,
guys
thank
build that?
Yeah,
We
we
did.
did. Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Man,
cool little room.
You know, all I got is my backyard, and Norman's in his office in Tifton, Georgia. And I got to tell you this is that we could only dream to be like you guys.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't know about
You-
that,
you
but we
guys are
appreciate
You're
way
doing all
more-
right.
You guys are way more badass. I'm being dead serious. This has been an absolute amazing time. We've got to figure out a way to hang together. We got to shoot some
We'd
guns.
love
We
to.
got to drive some cars. We got to smoke some cigars. Learn about those. Pick one out. We got to drink some whiskey. Pick one out. And I can't state this. I don't know enough that
Okay, so
we're
0
so
to
super excited about the future.
Real quick, 0 to 10, what do you think of those bottles? Real quick. Don't be honest.
We got to do a whiskey review anyway, so let's just do it right now.
Yeah.
We've got to do a whiskey review, so it's time for whiskey review,
I'll start them both off as they're both buy-its. That's an easy one,
Hey.
right?
right?
So
All right.
Hey, let you know, Josh, I own that name.
What whiskey review? Yeah, yeah, you do. I know, but I can still. We are doing a whiskey review. I didn't say
We
go to
put it-
whiskey.review.com. I said we are doing a whiskey review.
we put an accent over the E. It's review.
Yeah.
Review.
Whiskey review.
Risque.
Yeah.
All right. So first up, 12-year, and then 16-year. All right. We've kept up with every single whiskey, and we did a review every single episode. We actually have back here in the back, we did a 1 ounce pour of every single whiskey from season 1. So we have an infinity bottle of every single whiskey from season 1 that we are going to
May or may not have been a good idea.
Yeah, we don't know. We might make us blind, but we're going to break it out in a future either episode and or show. So
Starting with the 12 year?
starting with a 12-year.
12 years, 100% buy it. The flavor of that initially is fucking amazing, right? It's loaded with flavor. I'm going to hit that with an 8.6 right out of the gate. I think it's solid.
Going big.
I'm drinking that. I put that up there. That's one of those ones you throw on the bar. That's a go-to that you grab it and you serve it to the friends that you like.
Good differentiation.
Yeah.
So
If you don't like them,
you probably wouldn't be getting that.
when your wife brings somebody over that they're like, oh, I think you'll really like
Those
this."
aren't your
Like,
friends.
they're-
Those are
he's-
just the people that are there.
He's into cars.
Yo, that's
into
again, that's
cars.
not a friend. That's
Exactly.
just some douchebag that's over there because you're
Right.
making your wife happy.
Exactly.
Phil, what are you at?
I think I actually like the 12-year better than the 16. I think it was a little bit smoother. It's probably the proof is significantly lower, right?
It is.
Not like a
This is 92.
90s. Okay.
92 versus 125.
I think I like that one better than the 16-year. This has got the cool guy factor on it though with the 16-year.
This is easier to drink.
Yep.
16 years got way more flavor. But
I like the
So-
flavor better on that one too. I
It-
don't know. I'm gonna go 8.
So
go
you
ahead.
look back here. So we have a 15-year-old. We also have 2 wine casks here as well.
We
they're
haven't haven't had the wine cask yet.
You haven't had the 15-year either.
No, we haven't.
We have some good juice coming out and currently now. So we'll bring our whole set of our products and let you guys taste the hell out of it. Now you might not be able to leave that night.
That's
Hopefully
fine.
there's a cop-
We've
happened
taken
before.
Ubers before. It's not a big deal.
We ain't scared.
What's your number, Phil?
I'm gonna go 8.5 on that because I just like a good even number on all my reviews.
8.5.
Solid bourbon. I like that better. I'm gonna go 8.25 on the 16-year.
Oh, he's going 8.25 on the 16-year. Jeremy hasn't done the 16-year yet. I'm going to do the 12-year. I love this for the easy drinking. So there's no, this one's better than this one's. There's different times of the year. There's different things that you're doing during the day that you want a smoother sipper or you want some spice and some heat. So 12-year, great. It's a little thinner. I like sometimes the thicker viscosity or the fat if we're going to sit down and drink whiskey. However,
Throw a little olive oil in there. Then
there's been times where I come in and it is a hot day and you want to throw something together and you want a little thinner. I put this as, again, comparison-wise, this is a Blanton's, right? So this is the viscosity of Blanton's,
Sure.
right? I'm going to give this an 8.4. The 16-year, absolutely fucking phenomenal. I loved the fact that I don't get the burn like I thought I would from 125 proof, and I think that's because it's lighter and you don't get all that oak burn. We've learned this now as going forward that sometimes that the oak is what you think is burn and it's really not.
Sure.
I think the flavor is phenomenal. For some reason gravitating towards a higher proof. I'm going to give that an 8.6 on the 16-year. What are you giving for the 16-year?
So I didn't review the 16-year, but the 16-year, it's spicy, it's hot, but it's a great for 125 proof. You don't drink a lot of stuff that's 125 proof that's
No, you
that
don't.
smooth, that good.
You can't drink George T. Stagg like that,
You pretty much can't drink George T.
but you
Stagg.
can start a car on it.
Or
Yeah.
I was gonna go. You could fire a rocket.
Yeah,
you
I think a Model T you could run.
Yeah, you
could
could-
drive
yeah.
significant.
A Briggs and Stratton could run on. Yeah,
I'm gonna go. I actually like it. I would sip that slow. That would be a nice hang out with some buddies. Sip it in the evening. 8.65. I'm gonna give it a step
Ooh.
up from the 12-year. I hit the 12-year at 8.6. I'm going a little bit better.
that's a
So-
serious
We're
review.
going to the hundredths.
Dude, I'm not fucking
But I got a
around.
question for you. What's your 9? You have a 9 or a 10?
We have
Nothing's
never
hit
gotten
10.
to a 10.
I don't think we've got to a 9
grab,
either.
I'll grab the reviews real quick.
Well, we give Jack Daniels is like a 9.2, I think, isn't it? I'm just kidding.
What do you guys recommend for a cigar pair with either of these? Do you have a go-to? Which one of your cigars matches with the different bourbons?
The Ma Deuce goes with just about everything.
All right. So for everybody to understand. So for season 2, a yet to be released episode, we had some. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Ball brand, the Ball Moonshine brand. It's from it's from in the mountains of Georgia,
That
and
is
it's a peach
to
flavored.
compete with.
It's a legit. It comes in a Ball mason jar. Yeah, it's a little known company that not many people know of that comes in from North Georgia.
Your father from the beginning of the episode may have
Yeah, and
experienced
that one ranked pretty high. That
Is
one
that
ranked.
DeLonigan?
Do what?
Is that DeLonigan? Where they're from?
Dahlonega. It's in that area. Yeah, but it's they don't have to go near the regulations that you have to in the distribution.
You don't want to pinpoint their 10 pigeon.
Exactly.
No,
Just-
I don't.
Just look for the smoke coming out of the trees.
Yeah, this one was. This is you can't buy this in stores. That one ranked
I like
pretty
it.
high. We did Pappy Van Winkle 15 year. That did 9, 8.9, and 8.7 for reference. Then we
The
did
Pappy 15 was 8 to what?
Pappy. Phil did it a 9. Jeremy did it at 8.9. I did it 8.7.
You know, it's interesting. You talk about a Pappy 15 on a gray market. It's about a $2,000 bottle.
Yep.
Yeah, we got some back there.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous what they're bringing on the secondary.
Yeah, so what I try to do is range. Go, am I going to pay $2,000 or am I going to pay $70?
Yep.
That's exactly. That's why I'm giving you the score. So we did a Rock Hill Farms was 8.5, 8.6, and 8.5, right?
And
Which
that's a phenomenal bourbon.
Rock Hill Farms is a great bourbon, and that's basically dead on what the 12-year was. The 16-year was a little step up from that, just a bit. Elmer T. Lee, basically. We did 8.5, 8.75, and 8.2. Hancock's
That's-
Reserve. Old
Is that
Forester.
a rye? Is that Elmer Lee? Was that a rye or was that a
No,
bourbon?
that's a bourbon. That was just the bourbon. The Old Forester birthday bourbon was the one that we have yet to beat. That's the highest ranked in 2 seasons. 9.3, 9.1, and 9.4. That's the
I want
highest
that
we've
bottle.
got.
I need to get that bottle.
We can
arrange that.
we're still recording, but we can take care of some things. You know, we can handle some stuff.
Josh has several. I was just at his house the other night. He's got 3 or 4 of them. He'd be happy to send you one out of his personal collection.
You got more than me. Well, I'm sure we can figure something out.
Yeah, we'll hook you up.
Okay, guys. Well, anything else you guys want to ask us?
And I mean, we've gone through it. I think this has been absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward. We got to hang out in person. We got to do this shit in person. We got to smoke. We got to drink. We got to further
Hey,
the
we gotta take
relationship.
whiskey, we got to drink it together, and that's
Absolutely.
the bottom line. I'm looking forward to doing both.
Gotta share a
Awesome.
bottle.
We're going to make it happen.
Appreciate it, fellas. It's been a blast.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
We need to, if we're going to start getting into the cigar smoking, we're going to have to get one of those smoke eaters.
Insider information
Go ahead.
from Norm Hooten. Don't spend your money on the smoke eater
Okay.
because it doesn't do a good enough job.
Cut a hole in the roof.
Yes, or the outside wall. He said just do an exhaust fan that you can turn on and off with a flapper on it. He said it'll do way better job if you have an outside wall, which we have an outside wall and an outside ceiling.
You know what else you could do too? Is just like my dad did, just smoke it in here. And then when you smoke it,
Hold it.
No, you hold it behind your back.
well, you hold it behind your back, but while you're talking here.
Hold it. I think we need to put the fan in and we need to start smoking. A cigar on this would be, I know I would enjoy it.
Pairs well.
Yeah. Especially when we have an oil and whiskey edition cigar. Phil?
I still got some.
Well,
Great episode.
it's absolutely amazing.
Solid dudes. Love the history.
Yeah,
looking
great.
looking forward to hanging out with those guys. We got to set something up.
Yeah,
Sure.
we absolutely do. Those great dudes. Big thanks again to Hooten Young. Remember, you can keep up with Hooten Young by following them on Instagram at hooten.young. Thanks for listening to Oil and Whiskey with the Roadshow Shop, an Ironclad original. If you like the show, hop down there at the bottom, leave a rating, leave a review, smash that like button, subscribe.
Unless it's a bad review, then don't leave it at all.
Yeah,
Only had 1 or 2 of those so far.
Or put a comment down there and be like, this fucking sucks. I listened to the whole thing and it still sucked. But listen to the next episode. Maybe it won't suck.
It might be
We
better.
get better with every one.
Absolutely. Thanks again to our guest, Hooten Young. We'll see you again next week.